Good evening. I'd like to call the City of West Bend Licensing Board for August 21st, 2017 to order and recognize that we have 5 items on tonight's agenda. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 tonight is our list of operators licenses.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 3 is a temporary Class B beer wine license for Family Promise of Washington County for the Family Promise bed races being held on September 30th, 2017 from 12 noon through 5 o'clock p.m. at the Regner Park Entertainment Area.
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 4 is a temporary Class B beer wine license for the American Legion Lieutenant Ray Dickup Post 36 for an auto and cycle show and benefit concert being held on August 29th, 2017 from 5 p.m. through 9 p.m. in the parking lot of 2368 West Washington Street.
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? That motion carries. And item 5 is a temporary Class B wine license for the Downtown West Bend Association for Music on Main being held on August 24th, 2017 from 5 p.m. through 10 p.m. in downtown West Bend, Old Settlers Park within the designated areas.
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Being no further business before the licensing board, I adjourn.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Public Works for August 21st, 2017 to order. We have one item on the agenda. Item number 1, approve a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement with Good Shepherd Evangelical Lutheran Church. Presentation by City Engineer Max Marichal. Good evening, Max.
Good evening. Thank you. So tonight, like you said, we come to you for an approval of a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement. This is the kind of agreement we have every time that we issue or amend a stormwater management permit. And it's basically an agreement to ensure that the stormwater management facilities will be properly maintained and continue to function as intended. So you have the original for signature if the board decides to approve this agreement.
Thanks, Max. Anybody have any comments or questions for Max?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No further comments or questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Being no further business before the Board of Public Works, I adjourn. Now I'd like to call the Finance Committee for August 21st, 2017 to order. We have 5 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is approve the 2018 Capital Improvement Program budget. With discussion started by Jay Shambo. Jay?
Thank you. You have some documents that were included in your packet, and then you had 2 that came after the initial packet, the sewer utility and water utility forms, and then one that was just handed out to you tonight showing, it looks like this, the financing over the years, financing options, showing the potential increase from $1.5 million annual borrowing to $2 million annual borrowing and the impact that it has on the long-term future of the city of West Bend. Starting with the first packet regarding the memo to the Common Council, the $2.2 million that's being proposed includes $2 million in borrowing and then the remainder from cash on hand. Based on Carrie and the auditor's recommendation, we're going to be utilizing the cash on hand from the $450,000 that came from County Highway G, the agreement with the county. if there isn't money that's available from the 2017 remainder. So our proposal for you today is to use that money from County Highway G for the balance, because that's true cash on hand, and the only way that we can, I'll say, legally do it right now, according to, again, Carrie and the auditors. But the likelihood of the city having that balance or somewhere close to that balance, if our history repeats itself regarding how departments have administered their budgets, we may or may not need to tap into that amount. So on an annual basis, we typically ask for some monies to be rolled over into the future year. That's what that, we might come back to you with that change from the preserving the $450,000 for future CIPs, CIP efforts, and then taking that money from leftover 2017 dollars. But for now and for this proposal, it's brought to you as cash on hand from that previous funds. The second page shows the history of borrowing, and you can see the spike in 2013 for the build of the police department, and then a narrowing down to the $1.5 million over the 2016-2017 year, and then back up to 2018. If you look at just the end of this chart, the color chart in your packet, you can see an uptick from 17 to 18, and that's actually the very beginning of the chart that I handed out tonight, the 1/2 inch line of 17 to 18 going up, and then from there on down. As you all know, we're having a significant retirement of debt in the 2020 year, where $1 million of debt will be coming off of the books. Obviously, good news financially for the city of West Bend. Progressing through the document shows a breakdown of the approved capital projects, and then a little bit of further information about them below. And then the following 4 or 5 pages is the resulting efforts of many months of work from department heads and conversations with the mayor and others on council regarding priorities within the city. And the yellow items are the same items that are on the page before the previous page that show the items that we're recommending for approval in the 2018 capital improvement program. I might just touch on a couple of them to provide a little additional explanation. The Rolfs Road is the first one that I'll mention. It's on the first page of the breakdown, and you can see 220 is being recommended, although 470 was requested, and that's because of that county agreement regarding County Highway G and Rolfs Road extension. 250,000 is due to come from the county upon half of it, 50% initial design, and then the other half upon completion. So that's why the amount needed from the city is less. I'll say the $536,000 number is a more refined number that Max and Kunkel Engineering were able to provide to us. Those are 18th Avenue and 8th Avenue construction are certainly a priority within the road system. And flipping onto the next page, the $325,000 that buys us 1/2 of a fire engine to replace what will be a 20-year-old fire engine in 2019, replacing a 1999 fire engine. And Chief Kudek and I had many conversations about where fire engines are in their history of being replaced here in the city, and recommend this as a priority to maintain the fleet and the protection of our citizens. You do see a big expenditure coming if you look future years in the fire division as well, replacing an aerial ladder at $1 million, $500,000 in 2019 and 2020 as well. So just a heads up that's out there in one of our priority vehicles as well. I think the rest of this is probably self-explanatory. Maybe just a word on the radios. Part of the reason for the increase, and staff's recommending increasing from $1.5 million to $2 million, is the radio expenditures that are hitting us in 2018 as the county put up the new system to provide better coverage, in-building coverage specifically. Our police and fire units will all need new portable radios, and that comes in just under that $500,000 mark at about $460,000 for the replacement of the radios. And then lastly, maybe a point of emphasis, because it is a significant increase over the requested amount. The sign service truck had been requested for some time, is my understanding, and that number 100,000 just kept getting rolled over. When they actually went out to spec it, it came in significantly more than that for that unique piece of equipment. You see it around town, fixing the traffic lights and working on signs throughout the city. Any questions or comments before we move on to the sewer and water?
Yes, John?
Yeah, I got one question regarding the Parks aerial bucket truck. I saw that's got 25 years of service on that. How are we holding up with that service bucket because of the EAB that they've been working on? Is Craig or Mike here to let us? I'm a little leery if that bucket truck is going to break down on us or if it's in good shape yet to continue to catch up on the EAB.
Maybe I'll start, and then if we want Craig or Mike to jump in, that'd be great. The bucket truck certainly had its fair share of conversation through this capital improvement program planning process. Even got a ride in it. Mike was generous enough to send me up to the top out by Loch Larawn and have me really poorly manage to not get myself down. I asked for some help getting down, but I got my way up there. And then down having a conversation with Mike, and the point of me bringing up that little story is that he assured me he wouldn't have sent me up there in something that was not safe. And same with his guys. Obviously, he has great care and concern for his guys. He's not going to send them up in a vehicle that doesn't pass the test. So it's still passing, but you're absolutely right. It is an aging vehicle that generates discussion on an annual basis. Craig, Mike, I don't know if it more to.
Mayor?
Thanks, Rich. Just a general comment about the capital borrowing and the one-page sheet that Jay handed out just before the meeting. This is a 33% increase in our capital borrowing. The last 2 years we've been held at $1.5 million. You can see in 2016 it was 1.38, but we paid some cash for things. So we've had several year history of reducing our amount of capital projects and maintenance. Of this amount, a little over $1 million of the proposed $2 million is directly for roads and streets. I think we've recognized for some time two things: that $1.5 million worth of capital projects to maintain the city properly isn't enough. But we also recognize that our long-term liabilities were out of control. We heard that from multiple consultants, from Moody's Bond Rating Agency to Baker Tilly, which is why we really made the decision we did starting back in 2014 to put a cap on capital borrowings. But what this chart shows is the dark blue line shows our debt payments over time if we stopped borrowing money at all right now. The middle line, the green line, is if we continued to borrow $1.5 million per year like we have the last couple of years. And the top line, the light blue line, is what happens if we borrow $2 million. So I think the important takeaway is that we are still, quote unquote, bending the curve, that we are paying off more debt than we are taking on. But we're also recognizing, especially this year when we have to pay almost $500,000 for radios, that the $1.5 million just isn't enough. And I don't think any of us wants to be in a position that we're leaving the community in a worse position than we found it. We made some pretty drastic changes for pretty drastic financial reasons, but we're recognizing that as long as we're still improving ourselves, that extra 33% of maintenance dollars is going to go a long way, whether it's future fire trucks or general maintenance. I don't know if it'll be for a bucket truck or not. We'll see how that conversation goes. But that's just to explain that graph and to assure the community that we're putting some thought into, the appropriate amount of borrowing to make sure that we're maintaining things properly, but also we're recognizing that our long-term liabilities are still something we have to work on. And I think this proposal does both of those.
Steve?
I want to back up just a little bit I've had conversations about the bucket truck and the rest of it. You get equipment that old, although it still passes, you've got metal fatigue, you've got all sorts of things that don't show up, and all of a sudden you're way up in the air falling over. I can tell you being around equipment all the time, there's no substitute for having good stuff. They make it better, it lasts longer. I understand the cost, but I don't particularly want our boys swinging around up in the air. So I think we should make every effort to see to it that we get the boys a little bit safer on that. And we get the longevity out of it too. So I think if I understand all the borrowing and stuff, but if they're still keeping it for 20 or 25 years, it's stretched out. But safety is a big thing, and even checking these machines over and still looking at them, you still get mental fatigue, especially if they got them out during the winter, and that's when things start to show up, and pretty soon you're into the summer, things are snapping with the guys up in the air. So I'm okay with it. Let's find a way to make it happen. That would be my comment on that.
I was involved a fair amount, I think, with the discussion on the bucket truck. We took a look at how many hours we use it. Are there rental options out there? I think the deciding factor came back that it has passed the appropriate tests that it would have to pass. We also took a look at the used market, because it's not as specialized of a vehicle as, say, a fire truck is, right? I don't know that we're going to go out and find a high-quality used fire truck. But there is to a non-expert set of eyes, there's a wide variety of very similarly specified vehicles in the used market for significantly less dollars, like $50,000 to $60,000 to $70,000 instead of $250,000, that may get us, again, I don't know enough about it yet, but may get us 10 to 15 years where we could buy a 10-year-old vehicle, which is still 15 years newer than the one we have, for maybe a third or fourth of the cost. So I've encouraged the guys to keep the conversation open. I think we've sort of tabled the discussion since it's not on this capital projects list, but I'd be interested in your opinions on that kind of stuff, since that's really what you do. You deal with that stuff for a living. So I think at some point, as we finish up 18 budget and start looking forward to 19, I'd like to understand the value that we may get or think we're getting and really wouldn't get if we explore something that's used.
On that note, I just had an idea too, because we deal with this stuff all the time and we see it a lot. Maybe I'll just keep the eyes open here a little bit. A lot of times you get something with real low hours on it. Somebody just kind of used it a little bit, so maybe it's an option. Let's just keep our eyes open here a little bit and maybe fall into a sweet deal.
I know the guys have a
plus.
very detailed specification on
Yep.
exactly what we think we need, and it's probably pretty easy for you guys to get that over to Steve
Sure.
and just see what you can do. Again, I'm not the guy that should be making that decision,
Sure.
but it seems as though it's more of a commodity than maybe one of our other specialized type vehicles would be, that there could be an opportunity to save some dollars, improve what we have significantly, and still get some good life out of it going forward.
Let's look into it. Thanks.
Anything else? If not, Jay, you want to go with water and utility? Or water and sewer?
Starting with the sewer utility, it's the portrait chart that you received. I think that it's a pretty bare bones capital improvement plan for them. The sewer jet expense is probably the biggest one to note on there, $400,000. My understanding is every 5 years they go through this type of a purchase. And if there's any specific questions about that, we can talk through more of it. You see the 8th Avenue construction costs on there. That's for the next chunk of 8th that take place in advance of road construction. Just jump right into water?
Yeah,
Okay.
just go into water.
Jumping into water, it's a little more involved. Replacement of a 1999 construction step van is probably worth noting. 20-year-old vehicle. Well 11 reconstruction, and I'll butcher it, but I know Travis and Ruth are here to save the day as far as more specifics about what that reconstruction at 165,000 buys us. It was discovered that by reconstructing that well, we can gain, and I don't know the exact gallons per minute out of it, but significant amount of gallons per minute back out of that well versus just on an annual basis, the line item below it, well maintenance program. So during a routine well maintenance, there was a conversation between well maintenance folks that know lots of good stuff about this and Travis that just decided that if they reconstruct well 11 instead of just maintain it to a tune of 25 to 30 grand a year, we can make significant headway with that well. And so that's why you see that item appear in your 2018 plan. And again, 8th Avenue is on there for the water portion, and I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward with meter exchange. Of the 1.15 million that's included in the water utility budget, they would be borrowing $520,000 of that. So $520,000, ideally combined with a borrow of the $2 million, so that the utility's borrowing at the same time, and we're saving one bond rating and one set of fees. That worked out well last year, or this year when we did that. And it would mean that the balance, the $639,000, is coming from cash on hand within the water utility.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Travis, when it comes to the well 11 reconstruction, do you know what the ROI on that is? 'Cause I'm sure the maintenance isn't going to go completely away, right? We're going to still want to maintain that to make sure that it continues to perform. So,
yeah, that's correct. The maintenance will never go away, but you're going to limit it to probably like a 10-year instead of a yearly. Basically, we're going to go, if we reconstruct it, we'll go from about 200 to 300 gallons a minute to 800.
okay.
Mm-hmm. And then potentially remove that well 11 maintenance program.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Jay, for bringing up how much we're paying via cash from the water utility. That's one of the testaments to our utility departments is their strong financial standing. So it's pretty great that we can borrow such a small amount for such important work. On the sewer utility, just looking forward to 2019, I'm assuming that list mostly is kind of an FYI of things that are hanging out there. It's not necessarily a proposal that we should be looking forward to for next year at $7 million, thinking that Trenton Road sewer and water, I don't know if we'll be doing, or sewer interceptor, I don't know if we'll be doing that. Is it likely that some of these things continue to roll along as they get prioritized out?
Yeah, that's a fair question, especially the 3.2 for the clarifier drive and bridge work. There's currently one clarifier or drive that's down now, and so as they're looking at that, they are concerned about needing to rehab or upgrade all of them. They'll know more later this, like third or fourth quarter of 2017, how much of that number is real for 2019 or not. But some of those big ticket items will be pushed off until future years, so it's a more smooth
And rightly so on some of them. Again, it appears as though they're kind of there just so we don't forget that they're there, not that they necessarily need to be done in 2019. Okay, thanks.
You would hear more about that.
Any other comments or questions in regards to capital improvement program?
If I may, just a comment of thank you to department heads, division managers that have worked on the capital improvement plan. We started this in February this year, maybe a bit earlier than we have in the past. Having it approved by this body in advance of the annual budget, 2018 budget process is helpful to Carrie and myself and the department head team as far as creating that budget. So I applaud them for their work. They weren't always easy conversations that we had in department head meetings and one-on-one afterwards, but they were I think ones that were fruitful in the end that came to this recommendation.
Thanks, Jay. I agree. Keeping my fingers crossed on the radios that they're going to solve the issues that they are. So hoping that that'll go away with the new purchase. But with that, I will take a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. And that motion carries. Thanks, Jay. Item number 2 is to approve a resolution authorizing the preparation and filing of an application for funding and participation in the Community Development Investment Grant Program for an economic development project in the city of West Bend. Historic West Bend Theater restoration. Again, Jay, you want to kick off the discussion here?
I'll introduce the topic, and Kyan and John Torinas are here. If there are questions or more detail needed, they've offered to say a few words regarding this application. As you know, the West Bend, historic West Bend Theater restoration, I'll get the right moniker name down, purchased, secured, and we did receive proof that they are in ownership of the property, the West Bend Theater. They've had been in conversations with Ashley Mukasa, our economic development manager, regarding the assistance from the city and the possibility of us applying for this grant on their behalf. It's one that, in a conversation with Mark just a few minutes before this meeting, he was reviewing the grant application again and made the comment that it appears that they created this grant opportunity just for this project. It's really a good fit. It's one that's likely to receive funding. We have been on a conference call with the grant people from CDI, and it just seems like a really good fit. So WEDC is in support of this. Staff is in support of this grant application, so we're excited to be a part of it. Had a chance to review it and help with some of the final tweaks, but Ashley and John and his team did the bulk of the drafting of this grant application.
Thanks, Jay. Anybody have any questions at all or comments? Yes, Steve.
I'm glad somebody's doing something about it. I am. I remember that when, back in the day and stuff, and hope it turns out, hope it lights back up again and everything else. So I think it'll be a good deal.
All right. I'll entertain a motion then on the approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. And that motion carries. Thanks again, Jay. In regards to items 3, 4, and 5, we have the resolution in front of us. It has not changed much since I don't think it's changed at all. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Jay. So I think it's just, do we think we need to go into closed session to discuss it some more? Or are we good acting on it without the closed session? I'm hearing crickets. Okay, then if people don't think we need to go into closed session, I'll take a motion on recommending to Common Council regarding the revolving loan application.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. I don't know if you want to say anything about it, Jay. I know generally you do, so.
You want me to do it now, or?
Sure. Or do we want to wait until Common Council?
We can wait.
Okay, we'll wait till Common Council. Being no further business before Finance Committee, I adjourn.
Thank you, Rich. I'd like to call the City of West Bend Common Council for August 21st, 2017 to order and recognize that we do have a quorum here this evening with Alderman Williket absent and excused. Item number 3 is the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 4 is an ordinance to rezone 325 Chestnut Street, tax key 1119.133.0318 from B1 Community Business District to B2 Central Business District in the City of West Bend. And we have a presentation tonight by Development Director Mark Petrovich. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. This is a relatively simple rezoning that was recommended to you by the City Plan Commission. It would extend the current B2 district that's immediately north of Chestnut southward to include one additional property. In staff's opinion, this was actually recommended by staff to the developer who we're working with on a redevelopment of that site to facilitate what he wanted to do with it. We feel it better fits, the B2 zoning better fits that existing site. It makes the building, that's existing building, less non-conforming. It allows him to do the redevelopment that he wishes to do. Only thing we questioned, as did Plan Commission, is whether we should extend the B2 district further to the west as well. We approached that property owner and they chose not to participate in the rezoning, so we would recommend for the rezoning to include that single property to B2.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark?
Motion approved.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Item 5 is an ordinance amending sections 8.08 of the municipal code entitled driveways. And we have a presentation tonight by City Engineer Max Marichal. Good evening, Max.
Good evening, thank you. We received a formal request by the Sylvan Meadow Condo Association to allow the use of asphalt instead of concrete for driveway approaches in areas where we have a rural cross-section in the street and we don't have curb and gutter at the edge of the pavement against the approach. Basically, today the code states that the approach must be Portland cement concrete. And this development back in 1993 was installed originally with asphalt approaches. The language in the code was clarified in 2003 to mandate that Portland cement concrete. When we received the request, then we looked at the merit of the proposal. We talked about with adjacent communities, and I discussed with Doug Newman, our Director of Public Works, and we think that having asphalt approach in those specific areas would be acceptable to the city, and that's why we're proposing the change in the code to allow asphalt for those areas.
Thank you, Max. Are there any questions for Max?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 6, am I correct that we're tabling that one?
Yes, please.
I read it in the Washington County Insider that we're not talking about it tonight.
Here, Mr. Isaac isn't available this week. He's
Gotcha.
out of town, and at the last meeting when Ian was there, drafted a proposal, and we just felt it'd be better if on the 11th, and if you want to know the truth, I want to make sure all the guys are here.
Good.
I would like,
So
I
you're good
want
on the
every- I
11th.
would like everybody here at that time.
Perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Isaac, wardens, and all the questions you need to answer, so
Thanks for going through the process, guys.
you get her.
So we'll table item number 6. Item number 7 is a decision regarding a city revolving loan fund agreement, Epic of Wisconsin, Epic Creative.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Do you have any comments on it, Jay, or?
None beyond what the resolution and the previous conversations of this council. I think the loan is a safe one. The vetting committee, as you know, went through it and blessed it. It's something that we're excited about as an organization, as an entity, as a city, to keep Epic Creative in West Bend. So it seems like a really good fit downtown, and would encourage you to support it.
Thank you, Jay. And I'll just say that, Epic has been, of course, an important business leader in West Bend for decades, and I think this revolving loan and our relationship with Economic Development Washington County and Washington County as a whole is proving again to be a positive, and we welcome Epic to our downtown. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 9 is the resolution approving the loan to Epic Creative of Wisconsin, Epic Creative.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item number 9 is approve mayoral appointment of Mike Hussar to the Long Range Transportation Planning Committee. I believe Alderman Casson's revitalizing that group, and Mike, I think, was recommended by the bid to represent the bid district on that. Is that
Correct, yes. So we'll be getting together, talk about roads a little more. And it's been a couple years since our last study, so.
Sounds good. We have a motion on the item.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 10 is a report by someone other than Alderman Williket, who was at the downtown bid board meeting. Anybody there? We'll table that till Adam is back. Moving ahead to item number 11, a report by Alderman Hutchins regarding Community TV Committee meeting. Steve?
Okay, we went over our budget a bit. I'll just hit the highlights. The drone is still up and running. It's great shape. Probably the highlight is Community TV will be financing for all the paperless, all the tablets, a lot of the IT stuff and everything else. So, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it, and I know the first thing about it. So, Stephanie was there explaining a lot of things to us. So that was probably the highlight of the meeting, and we were pretty pumped up about it. And I think it's going to be a good thing when we're all set and ready to go. So, looking forward to it.
So when community TV pays for something like that, those are non-general fund, non-tax dollars. Those are dollars
That is
we
correct.
receive from the cable companies
is
to
correct.
operate our organization. So,
Yes,
so the
we-
public knows we're
Yes.
funding those outside of their tax dollars.
Yes, all the funding for us comes from franchise fees, and so none of this comes on the tax dollar stuff, so.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Steve? And being no further business before the common council, I adjourn. Are there any announcements? Anybody have a mayor's beautification award to announce? No? Okay. Anybody? And have a good night, everyone.